Hey, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jim Grant, and the lovely lady to my right or your left, depending on which way we're looking, Tamara Blankenship. How you doing today, Tamara?
Hi, it's good to be with you. How are you guys? Everyone doing good, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, it's a wonderful day, and we've got a wonderful guest with us today, Tracey Hull. You know her very well, don't you?
Yes, I do. She's an amazing woman, very inspirational. I'm excited to have you guys hear all about her journey.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But before we get started today, I've got to pay one little bill here, if I may, so just hang right on. We'll be right back right after this message.
Welcome to Everyday People, the show that is dedicated to recognizing people from all walks of life who go the extra mile and make a difference in their community. Hi, I'm Charlene Fouts. The 6-Minute Webinar proudly supports a show that is dedicated to recognizing people, everyday people, just like you and me, who go that extra mile and make a difference by serving others and serving their community. Tamara Blankenship and Jim Grant will host this show. I can't wait to see who's on today. I'll see you after the show. Now here's Jim and Tamara.
And we're back live. And Tamara, I'm going to let you introduce our guest as I bring her, do all the techie stuff behind the scenes. You go right ahead.
Sounds great. I have an amazing guest with us today who is here to discuss some of these amazing situations around nutrition. She is a dietitian, is a nutritionist. Is a certified nutritionist? Is that correct?
So it's both, Tamara.
Okay.
Actually, it's very confusing. So a dietitian and a nutritionist can be the same thing. It just depends on the state.
Oh, how interesting. Already educating us. Well, I am so excited to have you here. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here and share a little bit more about what's going on in your world and who you serve and how you ended up becoming this amazing supporter of nutrition.
Thank you, Tamara. Thanks. Becoming a dietitian, honestly, it started when I was very young. And I knew from the beginning, I know most people don't know when they go into college what they're going to do. Well, I knew I wanted something to do with food. And honestly, I was really bad at science. And yet nutrition is all science. So I kind of floundered for a while. I ended up passing. I did okay. But as I was in the profession, it just grew and grew. My love for everything nutrition, everything within your body. My husband gets so mad at me when I say your body's amazing, but it is. It's incredible. So everything's just grown since then. And I don't think I'll ever leave this field, ever.
I hear you, because when you said that thing about science, I thought, okay, we got a lot in common right now, right out of the gate.
So what was it exactly that inspired you? Was there something going on in your life that drove you in this direction to support people this way?
You know, that's a great question. I went through some things in childhood. I come from a very type A family. We're very controlling, you could say. We have anxiety. And one of the ways we manage our anxiety is through managing anything we possibly can, food. So I'm not going to mention anybody in particular.
Not going to call anybody out?
No.
How kind of you.
But when you count calories all the time, or if you, some people dabbled in being too thin or trying to micromanage. And I definitely dealt with that myself too. I didn't realize what I was doing. I had to manage my anxiety in high school somehow. And I ended up just restricting everything I was eating. And then came the backlash of that and all of the mental behaviors and all of the over exercising. So learning how to balance myself and make myself feel really good while not abusing my insides and feeding myself real food. And my parents did a wonderful job. We ate real food growing up, but it's hamburger helper when you can afford it. And learning about different kinds of food in college too, and being exposed to things you had never tried before. I learned a lot over those years.
And I agree with you. I think back then too, a lot of it's environmental, don't you think? Where back then parents were starting to now go into the workforce. So they were trying to multitask so many elements.
Mm-hmm. My mom, she retired not long ago, but she was a nurse. And so she would work very long hours. My dad is a college professor and he was working very long hours too. And they were extremely involved, but it's hard. And I learn it now too. Taking care of 2 kids and trying to get something balanced on the table can be very hard and confusing. And you're just doing the best that you can. And with financial struggles, it's even harder.
Jim, do you relate to any of this as far as like you raising children and struggling with?
Oh yeah, because growing up in the country, we grew a lot of our crops and things of that nature, and the thing too is that a lot of the seeds that you get now, they've got GMOs in them and stuff like that. So growing your own crops, while it may sound good on the surface, it still can snake bite you in what you're talking about. And last week's guest we had on this show, we had him on our radio show today. He was talking, Joel Peterson's his name. Joel was talking about how if you do not have the right nutrition in your body, your entire system is off.
Yes.
And he says that's why so many people are depressed. That's why so many people are considering suicide and things like this. It's more physical than it is mental. And he really shared his story. And Tamara, I mean, my goodness, he was 250 pounds at one time. He was 210 pounds when he was in the Marine Corps. And he had just dwindled down to 135 pounds. His mother was having to feed him by a spoon, and his family was having to donate blood to him to keep him alive. So that tells me right there, that's not mental, that's physical.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And Tracey, too, I'm sure you can speak to this, is the hormones that are impacted by when we lose our diet and when we start losing track of.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I was talking to a client today about that, and it can be so confusing. It can be confusing for a dietitian. It can be confusing for a doctor. And I can only imagine how confusing it can be for the latent person who's just trying to navigate how they feel. They're just trying to feel better, and they don't even think about how stress is impacting them, or the stress of even, you mentioned the GMOs, that's causing us stress on the inside too. And then where do you go from there? What food do you buy? Is it even worth trying to change your diet at all when you feel defeated from the beginning?
Yeah.
Right. And it's so true, because we're in that emotional spin. We also feel like, is it in my head? Am I eating, which come first? Was it the things I'm eating that's making me depressed, or am I depressed and I'm eating the things that don't feed me well? Where is the cycle, and where do you cut it off to start eating better?
Exactly.
Do you find that the biggest struggle with your clients when you're working with them, trying to?
It's navigating, cleaning out all the muck and picking one thing to focus on. So I think a lot of people, and myself included, we try to see the big picture, and then it just becomes too much. It's overwhelming. We don't know where to start, but we all know that we can fix one thing. Just start with one thing. And it doesn't have to be something huge that you don't understand. Say, I need to eat fewer Twinkies. Okay. Start with fewer Twinkies, pick the one thing that's manageable instead of being overwhelmed by it. If you're getting stressed out by trying to fix your diet, that's not going to help you either, right? Yeah. The stress is going to get you in the end. So, yeah.
One of the things folks don't know about me, I studied the world of herbs and natural cures for about 10 years. And there was a reason for that. I lost my mother, then I had gotten sick, and no one, the doctors couldn't tell me anything. So, but in my travels, I was watching my cholesterol. The total number climbed up to 266.
Holy cow.
And the thing of it was, this shows how smart I am after studying 10 years. I'm eating what I want to, and I'm putting all these herbs and stuff and supplements. And, I didn't realize that I'm trying to force my body to be a recycling center rather than a processing center. There's a big difference. And then I got smart, and I started looking at how I could reduce my cholesterol. I dropped it down to 173 total count. And last time I had it checked a few months ago, it's up to 179. So I got to cut back. I got to cut back on some Snickers.
Confessions of Jim.
But you let your food be your medicine. I've heard that, and that's extremely true. And if someone's out there listening right now, and we got a lot of people that's depressed right now based on 2020. Let's face it. I mean, 2020 started out as a nightmare. We didn't, we were all scared and to some degree, or at least concerned. If someone's listening and they're kind of depressed right now, what would be one of the things that you might suggest for them to do? Just something easy to start, to take a step in the right direction.
That's a wonderful question. I think everybody is hurting at this point, and that's where I get a lot of my clients as well. They're just saying, I'm hurting. What do I do to fix this? And it can be several different things. It can be improving the quality of the fat that you're eating. So a lot of the saturated fat is really inflammatory. That makes our brain inflamed. It makes the rest of our body inflamed, which makes us feel tired. It makes us feel sluggish, which can make us more sad. It can make us more depressed. Other things like cutting down on the processed sugar. So again, that sugar and the highs and the lows end up making you feel awful. It's like riding the roller coaster of your own life. So if you can at least decrease those processed foods a little bit and make it baby steps. Like I said, take out the Twinkies, add in something higher in fiber instead. Maybe they'll come out with high fiber Twinkies. Who knows?
Right? Get on that, Tracey.
I hear you. I'll vote for that.
Exactly.
The other thing would be what exercise feels good. So exercise is one of the biggest impactors of depression. Getting outside, being out in the sun, looking at your vitamin D level if you get into the doctor, but getting outside and doing an exercise you enjoy. Maybe that's running, maybe it's walking, maybe it's just standing outside. Because that's all you can do it. It's going to help you feel better.
So Tracey, do you? Oh, sorry.
I just going to say, just get some good sunlight on you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's amazing. Yeah.
Tracey, do you feel like a lot of your clients are struggling with depression along with it, or do you feel like that's not necessarily always the leading cause for diet issues?
It's not always the leading cause. I think lately, you have the
COVID effect.
The COVID effect, the COVID 10, 20, 30.
Right.
But I think people are unaware of their depression at this point. I think they might be leading into depression. But the main cause that I see, at least in women, and I think also in men, is we can't relate to this, right, Tamara? We're workaholics. We work all the time. We have a lot of stress.
Oh, this is Mitch. Don't tell anybody.
So we have a lot on our plate, and that seems to be the root cause of a lot of our eating behaviors. So the stress that we're undergoing, and I love this. I'm not stressed. Well, most people are stressed nowadays. We're not used to let me correct that. We're used to being stressed out. That's our new normal. And that's what drives us to eat high sugar foods or comfort foods, or maybe even anxiety makes you not eat enough. And then you end up with this low blood sugar, and then you eat too much sugar, and then you end up with a high blood sugar. So I think stress is really, really the root cause of a lot of it for my clients.
Even just calling it out, I get the clients. I'm not angry. I'm just really sad. I'm really, really sad. Yeah. Because they think anger is wrong, and it's okay to be angry, or it's okay to feel those emotions. I find that to be sometimes just letting them be there gets it to shift immediately. So I'm sure you see that same thing of, okay, when it's transparent, we all know that we're eating bad. What do you want? Where you want to go from there, right? What are the steps?
One of my biggest things that I realized was I got some really frustrating news personally, and I went straight for the kitchen. And instead of doing that, I said, I really need to scream. I just need to scream. I just need to feel that. And I grabbed a pillow and I screamed in the pillow, and I felt better. It was amazing. But we shove the emotion down and we deal with it with food.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really great.
And I'm a weakness for chocolate. I'll tell you that right now. I went and stayed with a relative of mine, and she's very much a food person, food comp. And I thought, well, it's not really my fault that there's chocolate cookies there. And I got some coffee.
I didn't buy them.
Yeah, cookies and coffee for breakfast. That seemed like a brilliant idea at the time. So she got home. She took the slack out of my chain. What's the matter with you?
I am so guilty of that. See, I don't buy them. I make them. So I get, I'm going to make cookies for the kids. Yeah, right. It's really for me.
Yeah, I hear you.
We did that with brownies yesterday. I'm like, we're celebrating, and I'm doing exactly what regardless. We're all human, right? We have to allow ourselves to be human. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's part of the fun of it, right? To make those mistakes, to get redirected again. I think when we make it too serious, it becomes a bigger border or a bigger boulder to overcome. And I found that being playful and saying, since October, I've been pretty much eating pretty junk food-ish. I'm in my junk food-ish stage and I need to clean it up, So, yeah.
It can be a hard train to turn around, especially when you're gaining momentum and you're just saying, well, I'm eating junk. I'm just going to keep eating junk. And it's interesting because I don't think people realize that. I know there's a lot of talk about the gut bacteria in our intestinal tract. Well, what a lot of people don't realize is those little microbes in there are actually telling us what to eat.
Yeah.
So when we start to change our diet, and our body's used to getting certain things, and those microbes are used to being fed a certain way, they're going to throw a fit. It's like a little 2-year-old. But if you stick with it and you start to change that bacteria and your body gets more used to it, that's where the key is. You just have to stick with it.
So true. Because I do think, we sit there and say, I've got a sweet tooth. I've got a sweet tooth addiction. Well, it's really just your gut out of whack.
Yep.
Give it the chance to recalibrate. Love it.
Or it's your emotions. I know a lot of people say, I can't help myself. I eat a lot of sugar, or I come home and I just shove bread in my face as soon as I get home. Well, why don't we look at it from a different perspective? What are your hours like? What time did you go into work? I was working with a lot of doctors last year before all of COVID, and they work really long hours. It's very high stress, and they come home and they emotionally eat, and they don't understand why. Well, you're going for sugar because it feels good, or you're tired.
So true.
And you don't know how to deal with those emotions of the stress of work, or, oh, I just need to talk to somebody, but I don't have anybody to talk to. And what's this? It's talking or chewing. So
exactly.
you choose chewing.
Such a great point. I always have told clients to look at the fact that if you're eating something crunchy, there might be a state of anger in you. Or some sadness of some kind. And if you're missing, if you're craving a lot of sugar, it's the sweetness of life. So you're missing some disconnection there. Or, if you're eating a lot of comfort foods, you're probably missing connection. So I've always, watched in my practice, there's been this consistent vein of that behavior connected to eating. Have you seen anything?
Yes, I love that. I've some of my more recent training, I've worked more into that, but definitely looking at, what personally came to me a lot in my life is, do I need affection? Do I need personal affection towards myself? Do I need to work on self-love? Do I need to sleep? So I have an infant and he didn't sleep for 14 months. Well, that drove a lot of my eating habits, or
survival eating habits.
Exactly. Or you don't lose weight and you're wondering why. Well, it's because I'm not sleeping. And then you're a little bit more okay with that when you understand.
Have you also seen a relation between what time of day or night you're sleeping? If you're a night worker and having a harder time losing weight because you're having to be the opposite of, the sun, working those evening.
Yeah, sadly. So I lived in Las Vegas for 5 years, and we worked a lot with the people in the casinos, and the women that would serve alcohol overnight and they would make the most amount of money would have that central fat around their belly button. And it's really because you're flipping the sleep cycle and you're causing your body so much stress. And those people actually, not to scare you, but they have a higher risk of dying early on because of that extreme stress. You're making your body do something it doesn't want to do.
So true.
We need to stop and pay a little bills here, and then go to Angel Marie Bonicelli. We'll be right back right after this message from our sponsor, the 6minutewebinar.com.
Hi, I'm Angel Marie Bonicelli with Angel Marie Shines, and I had the pleasure, the honor to go through training for the 6-minute webinar. Oh my gosh, this webinar and how it's structured and how they teach it. Thank you, Speakers Pathway Coalition. Thank you, Don McGrath, and the whole team for the 6-minute webinar, because you made it so simple, easy. And the way you lined it out with the outline, I can reproduce it. And I'm already getting the engagement. I'm getting people that are coming back that are saying, oh, I love this webinar that's so short, so to the point. And I love your products and what I'm selling, but then what I'm also the services that I provide. And I do any of this because I have the framework. So thank you so much to the whole team, because the 6-minute webinar totally rocks. Thank you.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. If by chance you want to get in touch with the host here, either Tamara or myself, just inspiration at E360 TV, just say, hi, Jim, hi, Tamara, whatever. And the staff that opens that, they'll make sure that we get it. We'd love to hear from you. If you know of someone who'd like to be a guest on the show, be sure and get in touch with Tamara. She handles all that. And no, we both.
I promise I won't bite.
Yeah, that way, if it goes wrong, you know, we both handle it. I'm just teasing. But today we're joined by, Tracey Hull. And Tracey, I was going to mention earlier that when I was adjusting my diet and all that, of course, being a chocoholic like I was, I mean, when I stopped eating Snickers, the stock in the company dropped, and they got mad at me for some reason. But I was told at night, when you feel like you're hungry and you're craving something, just drink water, and I did. And a couple of nights, I'll be honest, folks, I went to bed and I was still kind of a little hungry, but after that, it just went away, just a couple of nights, and that was it. And I slept better and I felt better, and goodness, I just, it was hard to give up Snickers. I got to be honest with you, but hey, get that cholesterol to drop without having to take pills or something. That's a pretty good trade-off, wouldn't you say?
I don't know. I mean, Snickers are pretty good. For my husband, it was butter. We had to give up butter to bring his cholesterol down. But, it's interesting that you brought up water, because most people don't. Yeah. Okay. I guess in the nutrition community, we know most people should drink more water. It's very, very important. I think it's underrated. People say, yeah, I know that I drink plenty of water, but at the end of the day, it's either habit or you're dehydrated. Now, I wonder, Jim, you said it helped you sleep better. For some people, they drink too much water and then it wakes them up in the middle of the night. That's too much. So I'm glad you didn't have that problem.
unload the tank. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. When it wakes you up in the middle of the night. And yeah, that's rough. But
maybe I didn't have that much intelligence. I don't know.
You were just sleeping that good.
Oh, okay.
But I think strong bladder is all you need to know.
Yeah. I think
a rubber band bladder.
I need that. A wonderful thing, I think, too, is starting the day off with water. If you're starting the day off with eating, you're really dry when you wake up. And I found when I was craving sugar first thing in the morning, which is frequent, especially when you're tired and sleep deprived, drink a good 16 ounces of water, and it really helps you to not eat as much sugar. So on both ends, night and morning time.
I love that you brought that up, because the simple fact that we are sleeping for maybe 6, 7, 8 hours and you're not drinking at that, most people think of food, I think, but it's really just that idea of getting hydrated first thing in the morning. What a great perspective.
Yeah, because the Japanese, that's one of the first things they do when they get up. They drink plenty of water, because when you think about the actual words, at night you're literally fasting. So in the morning when you eat, you break fast. You have breakfast. That's where that come from. And so nowadays, when I'm still a coffeeholic. I'm going to be a coffeeholic till the day I die. But at least when I get up in the morning, first thing I do is drink water while the coffee's brewing.
Jim, I am with you on that one. So I actually wrote an article on coffee, because I'm a coffeeaholic too. I love my coffee. I went to black coffee. It has to be good quality, but I found, if I drink more water right before I drink my coffee while it's brewing, then I'm less likely to drink that second cup of coffee.
Interesting.
Yeah. You see, Tamara, we both learned that in science class.
Yeah, I don't drink coffee. I'm the odd man out here.
Sorry.
I got a different advice. So share with us, what's a great way to kick sugar? I think, especially going into the holidays after Halloween, after now going into the sweets season of winter, we kind of stack on the weight. Is there any trick to kicking the sugar craving?
So I think a lot of it there are several ways that you can start. And I think the most important thing is picking what works for you. What can you be the most consistent with? If cold turkey doesn't work for you, don't do it. You're setting yourself up for failure. So big ones are looking at your sleep pattern, catching up on your sleep so you're not craving the sugar, looking at your stress pattern. If you are with your in-laws, which may not happen this year because of COVID, but let's say you're with your in-laws and you're really stressed and you need to go home. It's going to help you cut the sugar, right? And the other one is filling your meals with all the other food. It's not necessarily taking out the sugar, but making sure I love challenging myself. I have a food scale and I challenge myself to eat a pound of fresh vegetables and a pound of cooked vegetables every single day. And then I'm less likely to eat more of the carbohydrates, more of the foods that are causing cravings, because I'm so full of the good stuff. And I can eat whatever else I want. I just make sure that I'm still including those foods. The other one may be the water. So the water is extremely important. If you have a craving and you want that Snickers, drink 16 ounces of water first. They actually a study came out showing that it decreases your cravings and it actually can decrease your weight in the long term. So drink 16 ounces of water before, wait 20 minutes or so. If you still want it, that's fine. But don't bring the whole bar with you. Grab a little piece, go in the living room, enjoy it. Don't sit in front of the TV, really taste it. And then if you want more, we can discuss that later.
A quick question for you. I know when I used to be a raw vegan, which was when I had time, I had two things that were a side effect, and I'd love to hear what your take is on this. First thing was my ability to process information and think clearly was through the roof. It was just the coolest experience, which I could go back to. But the time of processing that kind of diet is insane. And secondly, I didn't have cravings anymore, which was an interesting experience. What are your thoughts on those?
Again, I think everybody's different. The raw vegan diet doesn't work for some people and it does amazing things for other people. I think the reason that your brain just took off is because you got rid of all of the junk, and not just the junk going into your mouth, but the junk that was in your body. So you were able, when the body is cleaned out from everything toxic, your liver can really kick into high gear and focus on repairing. Your body can focus on repairing your entire body as a whole. And it's not sort of sidetracked by all these stupid things that don't matter, right? So that's probably why your brain was just fed with all of these clean nutrients. You were able to repair and even connect those synapses that much faster, learning things faster because you were just clean. You were cleaned out. I'm sorry, I forgot the other question.
Oh, it was just that I could think better and I had no cravings, which was the craziest thing to me.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised at the cravings, but I assume you were probably including good, healthy fats. So I think that's one of the most important things when people go, and myself included. So I do prefer to follow a vegan diet, but I've done different versions of it. And when I didn't have enough fat in my diet, I felt awful. So having the balance of fat, even on a raw vegan diet, you have things like nuts and seeds, nut butters, avocados. You're getting the omega-3s that are helping your brain function even better, taking down that inflammation, and you're filling in you're getting plenty of carbohydrates and you're getting the fat to help you stay satisfied. So that would eliminate the cravings. I think you just were getting all the vitamins and minerals. And as long as you were eating enough calories, I think a lot of people don't eat enough calories.
The problem.
Yeah,
that was actually I had to go back to a more, I call it an intuitive eating, more kind of eating when I feel the cravings, just kind of not even cravings. Do I need this? Do I not? I kind of take temperature. But yeah, you're right. I just don't, the process of making raw food and, sprouting and all that, it was intense. It was a full-time job.
It requires education too, going about a raw food diet without knowing what you're doing.
You're very sick very easily.
And then it's unfortunate because then you think, oh, it doesn't work for me. Well, maybe you just didn't do it correctly. And there's nothing wrong with that. Doing the research ahead of time and setting yourself up for it. It's the way to go.
One of the things I tell people is that when I started on my, clean up my diet and all, we followed the Atkins diet a little bit, and some people praise it and some people complain about it and all that. But I tell people it doesn't matter. Find a diet that works for you. Your body will tell you. And if this doesn't work, okay, fine. Just don't give up on, finding the right diet, because there's, kind of like that old song, different strokes for different folks. From 1969, the line of Family Stone, Everyday People. That's the name of our show anyway, ladies and gentlemen. But I mean, what works for me will not work for you, but don't give up on yourself. Find something that does work, because it's out there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the diets that you see out there, they're not going to, they may work for you in the short term, but most likely they're not going to work in the long term, because they're not about you. If you fail at it, or you think you failed at a diet, you didn't. The diet failed you. So learning what your body needs, like you were talking about, Tamara and Jim, learning what your body really needs to feel your best is the homework you have to do. It's not about finding this diet's going to work for me this time. Well, no, listen to what you need. And that's the approach I take too. I think a lot of dietitians and nutritionists or fitness trainers or whatever think everybody fits into a box, and we don't. We're all different. Yeah. So listening to your body signals, and I really try to encourage people on that.
Oh, yeah, because we got to break some bad habits, because we were brought up, listening to TV, Wheaties, the breakfast of champions. Excuse me? I mean, I'm not saying it isn't, but I mean, that was the way it was presented. So we were, you get brainwashed like that, and you get to thinking like that. You got to shift the mental gear up there and, get up to high speed, because otherwise, you're not going to make it. You're just not going to make it, because you've been fed a lot of misinformation is what my tongue is trying to say here.
Need a cup of coffee.
Yeah, either that or some more water, one of the two. Get a little bit.
So true.
Yes, the misinformation is all over there, and it can be very, very confusing. And like I said, even for dietitians, we're constantly new information's coming out. We have to review it, and that's why I really think it's important for us to look at the individual. And I encourage anybody who's my client to look at themselves first.
Sure,
they're the expert.
Tracy, someone listening to the show would say, wow, I really like what you're saying. You got your website there. Could you give just one example, if you would, please, of someone that you've really been able to change their life and help them get in would you share that with us, please?
Yes. So I have a client that I actually worked with a very long time ago. And this client reached out to me recently because of COVID, and things had changed. And he was able to remember things that I had said in a class 5 years ago. And he said that really made a difference. These were things I didn't even remember that I had said. I'm like, oh, I sounded really smart. So we started working together, and going from complete junk food, not necessarily binging, but just bad habits. You've brought that up a lot, Jim. They're bad habits. And going from that, and now he fully, I'm just floored by his results. He fully understands the specific food. He can't do dairy. He knows it makes him feel awful, and he figured that out all by himself. I'm able to facilitate and educate based on symptoms, but it's really about asking. I just kept asking, okay, well, what did you do? What happened this week? And how did you feel about that? And how did your body feel after you ate that? And he really started to dissect it on his own. Now he can easily eat a very healthful, he eats mostly plant-based diet now. Never thought that would happen. Ever, and it's exciting for him at this point. Very plant-based diet. He's very intuitive with his eating. We actually figured out he wasn't eating enough. So he needed about an extra 1,000 calories so that he could crush his workouts. I mean, his workouts are crazy now. He can bench press. He's in his 50s. He can bench press a great amount of weight now. And he's doing better than he was ever able to do before. And we got from point A to point B in about 6 months.
Wow. I remember when I changed my diet, I never was much on salads. And to me, salads are kind of boring, folks. Maybe I'm kind of slow between the ears, but they are. But anyway, if I put apples in there, and if you put up pieces of apple and put walnuts in there and eat it, oh my goodness gracious, not only was it good, but I felt good after I ate lunch. I didn't feel like I needed to, come back and, almost have to take a nap or something. It just really made that much of a difference. And I thought, wow, this is nice, because that give me encouragement to, eat more salads and things like this, because before I had that mindset that, salads are boring. I really don't care for them that much, but back then I was in my 50s, you can't eat in your 50s like you did when you're in your 30s. It don't work. The wheels come off the cart at that time.
Yeah, your metabolism totally changes, doesn't it? As you get older.
The same thing was brought up to me today, and I have a personal experience with this as well. The same thing happens when you have kids. As women, our metabolism changes, and it's not just the metabolism, but it's our hormones. So understanding what works for us after having kids and letting go what used to work for us in our 20s. Just let it go. You're not going to be able to crash diet your way back into a dress because it's not sustainable. You have to support yourself more, even if you haven't had kids, as you start to get older, but especially after those hormonal changes. And I say, I had a traumatic experience with the birth of my last child, but all pregnancy seems to be traumatic, right? Your body,
it's true. It's very traumatizing. Yeah.
Your body's just going through this extreme change, and we have to respect that and support that rather than beating ourselves up.
Yeah. Because the secret to life, and is really the foundation is learn how to love yourself. And if you learn how to love yourself, you'll be more focused on taking care of yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's very critical. Bill Heinrich, one of our great friends, he talks a lot about that. He really does. And he's taught me a lot about that. And I really appreciate that, because, if you love yourself, then you're going to be more encouraged to, eat healthy and be tuned into what Tracey and Tamara is talking about, because these two ladies, they are walking, living, breathing encyclopedias on this. They really are.
Thanks, Jim.
You're welcome. We are. I've read your bio and all that, and listened to you talk. You're impressive. You're very impressive. Yeah. You're very impressive. And I mean,
thank you. Thank you. It's easy to learn a lot when it's honestly everything you eat, breathe, sleep, love. It's just such a big passion of mine.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And I tell you, it's all of us have been through dramatic changes here in this year, and reaching out and helping one another. That's what we're here for. And if you know of someone out there that's struggling with their diet or something like that, please get in touch with Tracey, and please share this show with them, and so they can hear the words themselves, because maybe Tamara and Tracey have said something that can inspire them to say, this is it. This is as far as I want to go, eating like a pig, and suffering the results, not trying to be insulted, but just being straight up with you, because when you're healthy, once you got your health, you got everything. Yeah. You can do anything. But if you're suffering, inside, your body's out of balance and all that, you're living a miserable life. You're not resting well. You're not living well. You're just not living. Mm-hmm. And
it's not, I think too, the biggest thing that I try to get across to my clients is it's not your fault either. Mm-hmm. It's not, even if you were the one that brought the food to your mouth, it's not your fault. Mm-hmm. There are so many things that are out of balance, and you just have to take that first step. And I think letting the pressure off and saying, it's not my fault. I'm doing the best. My hairdresser taught me this. I'm doing the best that I can. Yeah. That's it. I'm doing my best, and just letting it go.
Oh,
Even our guest last week was saying it's not necessarily in your head.
Yeah.
There might be a reason why something is going sideways for you, emotionally or physically.
Yep.
So get a chance to get support around all those things, because we can't be the master of it all.
Sure. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's all about loving yourself and looking for a better way, and don't give up. Because there's answers out there. Goodness.
Yep.
It really is.
Yep. And reach out to somebody. I think that's one of the biggest things too. Don't keep it to yourself, and don't hurt by yourself. You are not the only one going through it. No matter what it is, you are not the only one going through it. So reaching out, you may reach out to somebody who doesn't offer the support you want. Reach out to somebody else. Keep going. Yeah. Mm-hmm. You're worth it.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely.
And that's Tracey's email address there. Feel free to get in touch with her, send her an email, and she'll be glad to get back with you and answer any questions that you got. Mm-hmm. Because that's where, the only way you get knowledge is by asking questions and by reading and going to subject matter experts. And I highly recommend Tracey because she's just, she's very impressive. I'll just say that with everything that she's done and her knowledge and everything, she could help a multitude of people. And your website again, let me put that up there. There we go. How about that? I got the fastest clicker in the West over here. Sometimes I goof up and hit the wrong one, but
You're doing better than I would.
Yeah.
I would totally mess it up.
Oh, I tell you, I've done that too.
Practice makes perfect.
But what is one of the biggest problems you've ever faced in your life, Tracey, would you say?
That, that's a problem that's very, very near and dear to my heart. And part of the reason why I know Tamara at this point. So I mentioned I had a very traumatic birth. So my son is now a little over a year. But when I was pregnant with my second child, everything seemed to be going normal. I was actually in the best health of my life, pregnant life. My first pregnancy, I wasn't so healthy. I did the typical eat whatever you want. But this one, I was very active. And I actually ended up needing to deliver early. They thought that I had preeclampsia, and I went in to deliver and I got worse. So the baby, Eli's fine. He went into the NICU. He ended up with some complications. He was there for about a month, but I ended up going into full liver failure, kidney failure. I was in the ICU. I ended up with ICU delirium, and I had a brain injury from it. So my blood pressure dropped to 45/36. And that's what we think caused my brain injury. So when I went back, we didn't really understand any of it. And most people just blew it off and said, you have a baby. That's why your memory's not great, or that's why you're not functioning. But I literally couldn't speak a sentence correctly. It would take me a very long time. I had problems driving. I had vision problems. So yeah, bizarre, right? So I ended up going back to work, and my sister's a therapist. And I called her and I said, I don't know what just happened, but the entire room just went black. Everything just started closing in on me. And she said, you have PTSD. But I had to work at the hospital where I was hospitalized. So it brought up everything all over again. So thank goodness I was already in touch with psychiatry. I got the treatment that I needed, but it took a lot of navigating on my own. It took a lot of asking questions, and it took a ton of self-advocating. I had to advocate for myself because my family was there to support me, but sadly, my work was not going to do it for me. So I really had to advocate for myself. And then on top of that, my brother-in-law died of pancreatic cancer in November. So I delivered in September. He died in November. And then COVID hit, of course. And then I went back to work. So I ended up with all of these really negative self-criticism. I ended up with a lot of self-hatred, and it was bizarre. I have never been this angry inside of my head, and I'm going, where is this coming from? And a lot of it was the severe anxiety I had. I had postpartum depression on top of regular depression, on top of the PTSD, which was extremely confusing. And I had a wonderful therapist, and I had to be on medication. And coming out of it, I actually ended up somewhat losing my job because they were unsupportive of my recovery. And, I'm sure they'll argue otherwise, but it was not a supportive environment for my recovery. So then I basically lost my identity. I had been a dietitian for 10 years, and I had so much pride in my job. And at this point, I thought I was stupid. I thought I was incompetent, and I had lost my identity. I didn't have anything to show for myself. So turning that around into, first of all, I allowed the grieving process. I think that's one of the most important things. I sat through the misery with support, medical support, and help. So it wasn't like I was sitting there, suicidal. I was sitting very supported through the misery and doing the work I needed to do. And it was the hardest experience I've ever been through in my life. It was, I'm not one to cry, and I've learned how to cry. I've learned how to express my emotions. I've learned how to reach out to my family. I don't remember most of my hospitalization, but exploring that with my family, who was very hurt by it, and it was terrifying for them, especially for my husband.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
my 3-year-old, I'm pretty sure he has some symptoms from it too. And exploring that with an open heart and not judging myself and
Yeah.
saying, it's not my fault. It coming out on the other side is just amazing. And I started to really nurture myself, feed myself the foods that I needed, and being okay with not being perfect, and quieting the voices inside and slowly bringing myself back to health. So
Sure.
that's been the hardest thing.
Wow. I can
Yeah.
sure, when you started talking about that, I mean, I'm going like, whoa, because we lost a little girl shortly after birth. And I tell people, that, her little lungs didn't develop and had an incubator. This is in the 1970s now. And when you see them pick up your infant daughter after she's gone, they pick her up and they take her and they put her inside of a refrigerator and you follow them. My knees almost buckled when they closed that door.
Yeah.
And then I had to go back and pretend that she was still there in the nursery because my wife could see from the room. I didn't want to tell her about it till after she had a good night's rest.
Yeah.
And so when you were telling me about your story, I mean, oh my goodness, I was poor lady. I mean, you had me, hook, line, and sinker. I mean, I tipped my hat to you.
Thank you. It's the stories I've heard since then. It's amazing. And I think the NICU community has really good support, but it's never easy.
Yeah.
And it's never anything you're going to forget, right?
Oh yeah.
And it's terrifying to know that I was feeling sick the week before I was feeling sick. I went home sick because the midwife told me to, and I came back to work on Friday because I had to go to work, and that saved my life because and that saved Eli's life because the nurse I was working with said, you need to go to the BP, to the birthing pavilion. And if I didn't come to work on Friday, I don't know if I would have made it to Monday.
Wow.
So yeah, it's everything happens for a reason, and I'm extremely lucky.
Very much so.
Wow.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's an amazing story in it, Tamara.
Thank you.
That's an amazing story in it, Tamara.
Tracey.
I was asking you that. I was telling you that's an amazing story you shared. That's why I said it. You're still thinking about what you said there too. Take for example the mountains behind me. Those are the Mule Mountains in Bisbee, Arizona, and I have that there because that is where my daughter is buried.
Oh,
that is why I have the mountains behind me. So I haven't forgot her at all. So.
Yeah.
That's just a tremendous story you got there. My goodness.
Thank you.
And you're just really setting new standards all the way around when it comes to health and wellness and reaching out to people because your heart is in it 100%. And that's what I admire about you.
Thank you. I don't feel like there's any other way at this point. I don't, after my experience, it's my mission and my job, especially with my brother-in-law dying. I really feel we get signs all the time that he's still here, and I owe it to him. I don't want to cry about it. I owe it to him. And honestly, I'm doing the world a disservice if I'm not sharing my gift. And that's what I want to do.
So true.
So get out of my way. I'm going for it. And, I'm burning the bridges behind me because this is what I'm doing.
That's wonderful advice for everyone to follow us. You've got gifts. Everyone's got special gifts. And you need to use those gifts to be able to be a blessing to others. That's why you got them. And once you do that and you're living that kind of life, my goodness gracious, you'll never work a day in your life. It really is true, because I've seen that with Tamara because she's got a passion for what she does. And she's a workaholic when it comes to getting it done. But she loves every moment of it, don't you, Tamara?
It doesn't feel like work. It's so funny. I know people say I'm a workaholic. I hear it a lot, but it feeds so much of my life, knowing that I was there in the silence where someone felt like they had a lost voice and to be heard and seen and supported in the darkness. It's what we live for, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I get that. I'm so grateful for people like Tracey in my life who understand why I'm a workaholic, because she's one too.
And I love you for it.
Right? It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it is.
I know.
It's good.
You never feel like you're going to get to the point where you forget to eat, right? I love food. I love food, but literally it's gotten to the point where I just sit in my office working as much as I possibly can. And I put it down when my kids come home because they're all my attention, but I think about it all the time. I'm just on fire for it. So yeah.
100%.
Well, I could tip my hat to any lady that knows the sacrifice that I had to give up Snickers.
I respect it.
I gave you a recipe for raw Snickers.
Yeah,
right here is good.
But in the show today, ladies and gentlemen, my goodness, all the information's been shared. Gosh, I mean, please get in touch with Tracey. You can email her there at her email address there, and go to her website. Let me put that one there up because so she's got a lot of information there. She can help you in your hour of need. And most importantly, she is a registered dietitian and what's the other word? You're a nutritionist too, depending on which state that you're in. Is that right?
Yeah. So I'm an integrative health coach, but yeah, dietitians are licensed in some states and they're not in other states like California. So be careful if you meet with somebody who's called a nutritionist because a nutritionist can be a dog. It just depends on what state you are. Scary, right?
Really?
Yeah. Yep. And some people who are nutritionists are very, very smart and very well educated. You just want to make sure to pick the right person.
Sure. It's got to be a good fit for you all the way around. Sure.
Tracey, I know you work with people in many different ways. Can you share with some ways that they could work with you? Because I know you have a couple things coming up that maybe you would like to share with everyone.
Yes. Thank you, Tamara. So, of course, I work with private clients, definitely. I also have a group on Facebook, which is completely free. It's a detox group. So you can find that if you just find me, and then there's a group I can point you in the direction to. But I have a program that's coming up. It's a new program. It's a pilot release. I actually haven't finalized everything yet, but it's really exciting because it's everything I just talked about. It's supporting the woman as a whole. And I picked women just because I want to be able to really focus and give my all to one specific category and become very well educated in one area. But I think, like I was saying with myself, I just beat myself up all the time. And I think as women, I believe men are like this as well, but we need to be kinder. We need to learn how to be kind to ourselves. We need to be given permission for that. And also understanding our hormones and understanding that our way of eating is not our fault. And how do we make small steps? Or how do we jumpstart and detox our lives and take all the Snickers out, take all the sugar out, do it well supported too, and in a well-educated way so that you're not crash dieting. And that way you can add in the foods back and understand how they make your body feel so that you can really come up with the specific diet for yourself because everybody's different. So I have a program coming out called the Mind Body Detox. So if you just take my website /detox, it'll bring you to that page. And you can sign up with me and we can chat about it. But it's really for a specific group of people. And it's a lot of information. And it's just diving really deep in and learning everything you can change to make you feel your best. It's not a crash diet. It's about feeling your best so you can conquer the world. Like Tamara and I are doing, and Jim, of course.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when you said about men being kinder, the word that I normally hear associated with that is men being smarter, too. And that's an uphill struggle for some of us.
Yes.
But you're right. Being kinder, being more in touch with, people's feelings and stuff. Well, yeah, we all need to go a little bit more to night school on that one. I'll be honest. I mean, it's the way we were wired. Here again, society, the way you've been brought up, misinformation you get, men are not supposed to cry and all that stuff, And there's a lot of things out there you just got to, just do a mental dump of and just love yourself and treat people like you want to be treated. Half the game is already won right there. It really is.
Absolutely.
And you say your website there is /detox. Is that right?
Yep.
All right. Let's see if I can spell detox here.
The The other thing is, if you don't feel like you want to share, you're not ready yet to step into that space, you can certainly journal out some of your emotions and get ready for that next step. Because I think sometimes that courage to muster up, like you were saying with men, especially, you don't want to give up your man card, So sometimes just letting those emotions work through you until you're ready to be vulnerable with them is a great way to do it.
Yeah.
It can be really scary, but that's where the beauty lies. That's where the big changes lie. Everything's on the other side of fear, right? And it can be really scary, but just do it anyway. It's
Use it as rocket fuel, right?
It is. It's amazing.
It's rocket fuel.
Yeah, because fear is what keeps you enslaved in life. It's what keeps you living in doubt and need and all that. And goodness, once you just let go and just, because so what if someone laughs at you? I've been laughed at a lot. These girls have laughed at me 2 or 3 times just showing up. But we've all had fun. But sincerely, what I mean is that don't worry what others think. Think about yourself there and be good to yourself, because you're going to have an opportunity to be good to somebody else. If you're not good to yourself now, you can't be good to them later on.
Be selfish on
yes,
that.
Exactly.
Sure.
Exactly.
And stop living in a box. I find so many people try to conform or, try to be somebody else. You are a 1 in a bazillion chance that you made it here, right?
And don't eat out of a box either.
Don't eat out of a box either. Love that.
Sorry, I had to spill into that because I'm like, oh yeah, and don't do that.
If it's got a label on it for you to read it, you don't need to read it. Huh?
Exactly. Yeah. Labels will limit you. Don't do that.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh my goodness. I tell you, we got about a minute and a half left. I'm going to let you girls finish up with whatever you'd like to say today. Just Tracey, but thank you so very much for being on the show today. Sincerely appreciate it. I got to salute you on all the things you've been through. You touched my heart, young lady. And I tell you, check her out, folks. I mean, got to go to her website and check her out. This lady is top notch. She's high speed, and she'll take you to new heights. How about that?
That's my mission. Thank you. Thank you for letting me be on here and share my story.
You're welcome.
It means so much to me. Yeah.
It means a lot to us too, because we're all about providing good information to the folks out there. And Tamara, I want to thank you for, bringing Tracey on the show and say, hey, I've got someone we need to have on the show. And I'm so glad you found Tracey, because she's such a tremendous asset to the show and to the audience out there. So thank you again for that. I appreciate it. Thank you both for that. Let me say that.
Thank you for creating an awesome space to share. Tracey, thank you so much for literally being someone in my life that I can actually network with and support and continue to have that vulnerability, because like I said earlier, it's very hard to find a sister who, is willing to be as open and transparent about the battles of being a female entrepreneur. It's no different than being a male entrepreneur, but just, to have that sistership is so great. So I appreciate you.
Thanks
for taking the time to be here with us today.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for being you, Tamara. I mean, honestly, it's been amazing to get to know you too. And all of your expertise and anxiety, and yeah, you're like another sister. Thank you.
Well, folks, our time is gone. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure and share the show with others. And most importantly, be sure and get in touch with Tracey, and she will help you in your hour of need. I'm Jim Grant. On behalf of Tamara, have a beautiful weekend. Take care. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for watching today. We hope you enjoyed our show. Please tell others about all of our exciting shows. To find out more information about us, our hosts, and our staff, please visit us on our website. On behalf of Jim and Tamara, I'm Charlene Fouts. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll see you next time.